got a cis. You can't have a cis man making a film about this.
Is that what you know? Oh, no, I don't think There's amicable people.
Affleck was the farming fan,
He's a pretty decent director, as long as it takes place in like Southie.
And the music's done. I haven't done this in a couple of weeks, so or at least 1 week. It's a little rusty getting everything set up. Keith, you want to give us the intro?
Yes. Hello. I'm the champion Pactor Factor question asker. We are here to promote my questions on Pactor Factor. Please Pactor Factor my questions responsibly. That's the intro, right?
Yeah, it's close.
Yeah.
This guy gets a couple of questions read on Pactor Factor. Fucking unbelievable.
It gets bigger and bigger. We've been fit the screen.
He's just, you just slowly start like moving back from the screen because you're every episode, just like 1 inch back on the chair.
Move closer in so my head is actually bigger.
There you go.
Right, and because of the lockdown in the UK, I've been watching lots of stuff on streaming. So, and one thing I found that Britain doesn't exist in America. It's only England. So from this point forward, Matt lives in Mexico and Evan is from Canada. And that's the way it shall be. So Matt, how are things in Mexico?
They're not too bad. Colder than I would like, but it's warming up. So yeah, we should be in tank top or vest weather shortly.
Oh man, I can't wait for vest weather. Not wait.
Right.
Yeah, well, you would think that there's some sort of pandemic going on, but I just went for a run near the Kamo River. I don't know why there's a Japanese river in Canada, or at least it has that name, but there's people
you
playing.
Are from there. I didn't say you were there.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. I went for a run. I just got back like 30 minutes ago. There's people playing soccer. There's people doing hanami, just like sitting under cherry blossoms and like drinking. I saw a university dance crew of like 50 people practicing. There's people playing old people, a giant group of old people playing bocce ball outside. It's like the best spring day ever. You wouldn't think anything's wrong in Kyoto. It's ridiculous. I had to like dodge people to get to keep like a decent distance. I thought I was going to be on, the only person jogging on the river, but you would think that like the beaches are open for summer, like it's fucking Jaws or something. It's quite quite shocking.
You're not on lockdown.
It's not even worth really getting into, but Japan was pushing for the Olympics so hard. And then 2 days after they postponed the Olympics, the Tokyo governor, 2 days after, she's like, you should probably all stay home this weekend. It's like, oh my, fuck off. Like you're endangering the lives of so many people. Either Japan dodged a bullet because of like cultural things and, no one hugs and masks and general social distancing at all times, or the worst is yet to come. And I think nobody is practicing.
I think it's the second, if I'm honest. Just looking at numbers, daily number increases. I think you postponed it for a long time, but I think now it seems like it's going to go. And that's mainly because air travel and all that is still happening in a lot of these places. I know people get in quarantine as they come in, but it doesn't take much.
But yeah, other than that, I'm fine. Anyone else? Everyone else?
So Liam, how are you enjoying isolation? Not that you're isolated or isolating.
Well, I've been pretty used to it because I quit my job in January, so I'm just like, I got a couple of months head start. I mean, it's quite odd. It's better because it's better than how I've been acting a few weeks before I went to New York. But now all of my friends from school are online, and I've been playing tons of games with them every evening. Probably, I don't know if anybody could sort of understand the same thing, but I think it's quite funny. Coronavirus has given people like last chance to reconnect with some old chums, from school, things like that.
It's doing wonders for the environment as well.
Yeah, exactly. To be honest, I think the air quality just where I live alone is a lot better since there's been less cars off the street.
There's critically endangered animals wandering through the streets of Mumbai.
I did see that.
Yeah. Don't help China.
Yeah. Dan, you're actually the one of us who wants to be at work right now.
Well, yeah, it's 12 days in because I was off because of a cough, like before the whole lockdown. So I think I'm on like day 13 now, something stupid, and it starts to get a bit mundane. However, I have caught up on a lot of my games, so that's good. And I'm almost finished Doom. I'm playing Animal Crossing every day. Why did I buy that game? I'm an idiot, but never mind. That's a story for another time. And I also bought Hitman 2 for $9.99 on Amazon.
I see that you're replacing Mitch as the person that always has everything he's going to talk about within arm's reach from his desk.
So there's a cool like multiplayer mode on there where you basically are both 47 and you have to like assassinate the same dude. So my brother's got it. So for $9.99, I was like, well, we're both online all the time now. Even though he's in the US, he's not working. Or he's working, but he's working from home. So he's got a bit of time. So I thought I'd pick that up and we'll have a go at that.
Not a bad price.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Matt, what is the hashtag for it? What do we do?
Bit Wars, Revenge of the Teraflops.
Right, so we're going to talk about not just Sony's sad excuse for a PS5 presentation, and this is where the background comes in. So for those of you who recognise, this is Jason Lee playing Adam Brody, who owns a comic book store in the Kevin Smith films. And there's a line in this particular film, Jane Silence, Bob Strikes Back, where they ask him about the Bluntman and Chronic movie. And he points to Wizard magazine and said, "This is the pulse. This is your finger, far from the pulse, jammed straight up your ass." And that's how I feel Sony are at the moment.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about the difference in how Microsoft have been presenting the Series X compared to PlayStation's not presenting the PlayStation 5. And also some of the things that people have been saying about both. Who would like to go first? Please raise your hands and don't all talk at once, and I'll pick one of you. Matt.
I want to get the 3D
Thank
audio.
you for observing the rules.
I want to talk about the 3D audio thing and just get that out of the way. I have a visual representation of what 3D audio is. It's this giant button right here that no developer ever fucking uses. They're not going to use 3D audio. It's the biggest waste of R&D that Sony ever spent money on. They should have increased the goddamn teraflops and got on board with everybody else. And that's what I have to say about that.
Okay, thanks very much for watching. We'll be back next week. Right, Liam.
Well, sorry, I lost my trail of thought. I was thinking, personally, I think the 3D audio should be updated because we've made like little to no sound design innovation in the past 15 years, something like that. I'm quite good at sound design. I did a lot of it at university, and it's quite funny because the amount of sound design you can actually do in games is actually rather mediocre. They can do pretty fantastic things with sound design on PC, but not on consoles. And if the thing is that I get where you're coming from, because if Microsoft doesn't want to innovate in the same way, then why would third-party game studios take advantage of it? But in my opinion, they should. Like, I wish both parties could get involved on it, because you could make some riveting experiences just from a sound design perspective.
I don't disagree with you, but the one studio that could actually do something with it is now owned by Microsoft.
Well,
I mean,
Are you talking about? Are you talking about
Hellblade.
Ninja?
Yeah.
That's that is the
really
one.
funny.
That's like the one game where I've never really paid that much attention to sound and like obviously I appreciate sound design. Like, oh yeah, this game sounds good. But a game that you actually should put headphones on, you're like, wow, okay, this is different from other games that I have played, and now I understand like there is more to be done with this. But that's the exception and not the rule. And I think Mac brings up a good point where, it sounds cool, but the whole point with the touchpad is like, who's gonna take advantage of it?
there's 2 games I think that use that where you actually have to like maneuver on the touchpad or use it in interesting ways, and one was Killzone.
Oh, come on. You know that touchpad in Mass Effect Andromeda, it puts your guns away. Never forget that.
I mean, the other thing too is like the microphone that's in the controller. Like the first time that I played F1 and it was talking to me through the controller, I was like, where the fuck is that setting to disable this? Because I do not want to deal with this fucking thing.
I liked it in Transistor. Like your weapon talks to you, and it came through the controller. Because she has it in her hands. It made sense for in that specific case. But I get like in Resident Evil 2 remake, the only thing that comes through your controller is when you open doors. That's really unnecessary.
Yeah.
But if you're on like an intercom or something, I get like, using that. But
it's literally like the process of opening every game, going into the settings, putting on subtitles, and turning off the sound in the controller every time.
They're just adding steps before you can actually start the game.
Yeah, basically.
You can turn that off from the main menu screen.
By the way, I'm drinking a Asahi Super Dry, the official beer of the Tokyo 2020 Olympics.
Being played out in 2021, but they're not changing any of the logos because it's too expensive.
I'll see this can in next year in July.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's funny when they said that. They said, we're not going to change any of the verbiage. It's still going to be 2020. I was thinking to myself, that's to save you hundreds and thousands of a yen or whatever because you've already printed everything.
Yeah. Sorry. Anyways.
Yeah, thanks for that information that no one asked for.
What I find interesting is, like, how long had they been planning this 3D audio? I'm thinking to myself when they're making the PlayStation 5, because surely they would have thought, oh, what game does really good audio? Surely we should acquire them to show off this 3D audio setting. That was what made sense to me.
I should say, actually, it's actually quite interesting because I don't know if anybody's noticed how good the audio is in pretty much every Sony game you could possibly think of. Because they've like hired a team of audio games designers to work at some of their sort of in-between studios. And they've been sort of championing 3D audio since the beginning of this generation. But it's not like real 3D audio. It's sort of a fake sort of fool with your ears kind of thing.
That's really a hard thing to show during a presentation, though. Like, how do they show that to the consumer when they're gonna do like a games blowout? It's
that's why they got it out of the way now, and it's a very dull presentation. Like, I doubt.
But it seems silly to now. Right, it seems silly to get it out of the way if they're putting that's one of the main features they're pushing for the PS5 if it is going to be that.
I mean, the thing is that I don't think they're pushing it so much. That event was not meant for the public. They just put it online because they thought that some people would find it pertinent. And Sony, being the Sony they are, thought, oh, let's just not tell everybody that this event isn't a big deal, let's just maybe nobody will care.
I completely disagree with that idea. I'm thinking if you're putting it online, it's for everyone. Like, we're putting it online just for some people.
Yeah.
We're getting criticised. Oh, we didn't expect that.
Believe
That's
me.
Rubbish.
There was okay.
It's Sony management all over.
Their email inbox and say, "There you go. Don't share this, please." There you go. Boom. And then they don't do that, and they actually do a reveal that everyone wants to see, rather than the shit show that we sat through last week.
I don't
it
think
was a GDC panel. That was one.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a panel as such, as there was some weird people sat at funny angles.
Those
They
are-
weren't
those-
really there.
Yeah,
they weren't really there.
Yeah.
Now,
They were
Evan's spoken
there
about
as
all
much
of this
as
before,
Brody
so
is behind you.
let's rush through this before he gets bored and fucks off. Evan, what show did you talk about this on? Do you have another show that you do?
Oh yeah, I'm mostly gonna sit back and just maybe play off you guys and ask some questions on this because I already talked about it on episode 11 of the Coffee and Beer podcast, which came out last week.
In which you don't drink beer, you're only drinking coffee.
Yeah, it's always been the morning for like the past like 6 shows. So what the fuck? Hey, I have an idea. Start a podcast. Rebrand a podcast that doesn't have games in the name to something that also doesn't have games in the name of the podcast. Who gives a shit? But yeah, I already talked about a lot of this, so I'm just more curious to hear what you guys had thought about it.
All right. So my take on this was they really screwed up on the advertising of this and not saying specifically what it was. So there was a level of expectation created by them not managing that expectation. And 600,000 people tuned in for this. So how many people tune in for a normal GDC presentation? Because most of those, well, a few of those get live streamed, not all of them.
Right.
I very much doubt it's going to be 600,000 people. The other thing is, if you were the PR manager at Sony, would you quit? Because if that were me, and I've been saying, actually, we really need to manage this. This isn't the way we should be doing this. You've got your finger far from the pulse, jabbed straight up your ass. We need to be doing something different. They've just been totally ignored, or I would assume that they've been totally ignored if I were in that position. So I don't know what it's like in terms of being able to speak truth to power at PlayStation at the moment, but it would seem as though they have learnt a lesson from Microsoft's launch of the Xbox One, except they've learnt the totally wrong lesson.
It was great. Like the PS4 presentation in February of 2014, and then in E3, they did a great job there. Like, what? I don't understand what this. They've become
complacent again. It's PlayStation 3 all over again. PlayStation 2, they were up. PlayStation 3, they decided to build some stupid system no one could program for. I love the PlayStation 3. I had one, but I'm just saying it was for third parties. It was a nightmare. And now then they're like, oh god, now we need something friendly again. They got everyone back on board, and then they just shit the bed all over again. It's bizarre. Hopefully they do recover.
Yeah.
But that presentation was goddamn awful.
I have to agree with Dan, and I have to echo those same sentiments. Like, this is the PS3 all over again. It's not as powerful. It's got this weird architecture that's not.
That's not necessarily the case.
No, I don't.
But continue, and then I'll tell you why you're wrong.
Okay. Okay. How well is it going to run Unreal and Unity? Like, when you program a game for Unreal and Unity, is it going to run better on a Series X? I think it will. They might be able to get crazy power out of it for first-party titles, but everything else is not going to run as well.
Okay, so if you go and watch the Digital Foundry videos, and if you follow Digital Foundry on Twitter, they've come out with some really interesting things. So from listening to what they've said about both machines, it gives me the impression that it's kind of brute force versus smarts. So you've got the Series X, which has all the flops. Oh my god, I love those flops. I want those flops to caress me. Whereas you've got the PS5 where they've done really innovative things with how you can code more easily and how you can access memory more easily. So it's almost as if you're dealing with kind of brains versus brawn type approach. And one of the things that John Linneman said, he didn't name the developer. He said he's spoken to some third-party developers, and they've said that this is going to be one of the easiest machines that they've ever worked on to be able to deliver what it is they want to do. So whilst it's less powerful, it's now more easy, potentially, for developers to code for. So that's where the flop wars bit is maybe a bit of a misnomer, because Xbox Series X might be able to run certain things slightly faster, but it might not be able to do some of the things like access memory more quickly.
Reduce
but we'll have to
bottlenecking, as they talked about.
Yeah, so, but again, because Sony's got their finger jammed up their ass, we're not going to know, because in the presentation, they didn't actually show us anything. They just showed us diagrams of the CPU motherboard layout, which is what I thought was smart about what Xbox did. Here's a Xbox One X, here's a Series X, here's a shit game. See how fast the shit game loads.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I wasn't really referring to the teraflops. I just think they're just complacency in general. Like now Xbox come up with Game Pass, and there's just a lot of things people, if they're going to change again, they might decide to stay with PlayStation. I know I will. I'll be honest, I'll be out there. I will get a PlayStation 5. I probably won't get a Series X. I'll be completely honest there. But there will be some people on the fence who went from Xbox 360 to PlayStation 4 that I do know quite a few people who did that, and who might end up going back to Xbox just purely on the poor messaging. So they do have to turn it around, I think. Yeah, and a lot of people now have got a lot of time on their hands for surfing the web, looking at stuff. And yeah, they might come across the Digital Foundry stuff and it might sway them. But I'm just thinking, messaging-wise, PlayStation have been pretty poor in the run-up to their new console.
There's some weird stuff about the choices that Sony have made as well, like an 825 gigabyte hard drive. That's a really weird number.
I think that's literally a cost measure. Like if they made it a 1 terabyte drive, that it would cost something more. My theory is that they want to sell the system for £400. I'm sorry, $400. And the hard drive being that side is simply a cost-cutting measure to.
Yeah, but it can't cost that much. You can't. The difference between 825 and a terabyte. And even though they've said, "Oh yeah, you can use your own NVMe drives as long as we tell you they're compatible."
when they come out, like they say,
they
it could be up to a year after the system launches. They say they literally might not release until after a year of the system being out. So
yeah,
I've never had problems with. I've never even filled up like 800 gigs on my PS4 Pro, so that I don't really care about that.
I literally just did.
When I finish games, I just delete them, and everything I play is single player. So it's like on my hard drive, off my hard drive. There's nothing that sits on there that I go back to for whatever reason.
I had to spend Friday night. Yeah, I'd spend Friday night like managing my downloads to work out who's going to be on, what I'm going to play, and was like deleting stuff. I was like, oh, that's too much single player. Yeah, get rid of that. I haven't played that for a while. I'm like, always maxing out my terabyte.
Yeah, I've got 2 terabytes, and I still max everything out. Yeah.
Holy shit! Why do you guys have so much fucking games on your? Why do you have so many games on your system?
Well, I like keeping certain games there, just so I can jump in at a random moment's notice. And then, like multiple multiplayer games. You know, I never know when somebody's gonna be like, "Want to go on GTA Online? Want to go on Call of Duty?" This Call of Duty, because I have an old friend that has like one of the older versions of Call of Duty. You may want to go and play a few private matches and bullshit.
Yeah, that's the most annoying thing is when someone goes, "Do you want to play this game?" And you go, and you're like, "Oh, well, I did that like 3 weeks ago." Yeah, that is like the most frustrating part. So yeah, I was a bit disappointed by the gigabyte. I'm like, really? It's under a terabyte, and we're going to the next generation. That was a backward step for me. I know we're going to solid state, but I was like, man, really?
Well, one thing that you should put into, think about, I suppose, is every game, hopefully, I hope so, especially a game like Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which is freaking ridiculously huge. I really hope they patch it, because the file size can be a lot smaller on solid state, simply because they don't have to copy multiple files. Like they have to put them in different instances in the hard drive, so it can find certain files quicker and upload them to the game, I guess.
Right, so one of the things that I'd equate this to is a horse race. So at the moment, because Microsoft are doing smarter things, I'd say they're slightly ahead coming into the final furlong. do we think that Sony can catch them up and potentially overtake them?
Well,
No.
Dan,
oh yeah, sorry.
Dan raised his hand first.
Following the rules. I would have said yes. What worried me was an article coming out yesterday or 2 days ago about the fact that Sony said they think the PlayStation or an Xbox said their console releases shouldn't be affected, but games may be delayed. So that worries me a little bit because I'm expecting Horizon Zero Dawn 2 to come out at launch with the console, and I think maybe releasing that about July or June, whenever they decide to show us some games. I think that might sway quite a few people because I think that will look gorgeous on the next generation console.
Well, the system,
the games themselves.
Yeah, the system blowout is yet to come. It hasn't come yet.
So I think that will maybe push one in front of the other because I'm still thinking Xbox is going to be Forza. We don't really know what the new Halo is really yet. The last two were dire. I did play through them on Game Pass. They were on my PC. It was, oh my god, why did I bother? And yeah, so it'll be interesting. I think to see.
Liam,
I was just saying, I don't think you're going to get Horizon Zero Dawn this year.
No.
There's zero chance. I mean, I thought it was unlikely before, but it's like one of those things that you think in the back of your mind, maybe. But like the first game had a lot of outsourcing to China, and you know, if China's not running effectively, like I just don't think there's any chance of that game coming out this year.
Horizon Zero chance.
Yeah. Sorry,
Am I right?
Oh,
So, and they need to code for the new 3D audio now. So that's going to take time.
I'd hope that a first-party developer would have known about that.
Well, I think that the main thing for me is they can easily catch up.
Yeah.
But they actually have to show us, one, what the box looks like, and two, some fucking games running on it.
Yeah.
I have a theory.
That's all I need to see. That's all I care about.
All right. This is how Sony catches up and gets ahead. They announce the fucking price. How much is this damn machine going to cost? That's the one thing that we don't know. And like, it bugs
dude,
the hell out of
Matt's
me.
fucking pissed about PlayStation.
Well, we don't know how much the Xbox is going to cost either.
Lots.
It's I mean, it's probably going to be $500.
It could be more. I don't know. It's difficult to say. Really.
But then it comes into whilst we don't know the price, and we're in this rather interesting console game of chicken in which Nintendo's just sat there counting money, watching.
Yep.
And I know this is something we've spoken about, and loads of people have spoken about. Who's going to blink first? And maybe this is going back to Liam's point about PlayStation not putting as much power into this machine and thinking, how can we potentially keep the cost down, but make the machine smarter, so that we can try and get as much power out of it as we can. Because people have been saying it's 10.2 teraflops. It's not. Its base use is about 8.5.
No. That's actually not right. That's been corrected multiple times.
Has it?
Yeah, that it's really just something that got started by a bunch of YouTubers.
Assholes. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, if you watch the presentation with Cerny, he pretty much explains that like they're building the system in a way that it can always be running at optimum speeds, which is in over 10 teraflops essentially.
Yeah. 10.2 is over 10. Yeah. Just. But I got to the point in.
It's true.
Well, he said there was like a 0.2 deficit or something like that. So
I got to the point in that presentation where I was either going to fall asleep or have to start taking notes and then doing research later. So
yeah, basically.
I just stopped. Right, what was I going to say? Yes. So if Microsoft allow Sony to announce the price first, do we think that Microsoft will just eat cost and match the price?
No, because they've got different versions.
But
So
we
line
haven't
up
seen
the
what
one.
Lockhart looks like, and this is right. So I was trying to ask this question on GameFace, and it didn't quite work because it's quite a complicated question. So during the Digital Foundry visit to Redmond, which isn't where Microsoft were based, it's where Valve were based, so that made literally no sense. But one of the things they said is the system on chip, so the Xbox Series X chipset, will also go in the Project xCloud server blades, and those can run 4 simultaneous Xbox One S quality streams.
Right.
So, but the thing about the Xbox Series X, this is getting so fucking confusing, is that to get the most out of the system, you have to have the integration between the chipset and the SSD drive. In a server blade, you don't have the SSD drive, so you're never going to get a true 4K 60 gaming experience, I don't think, because there's not the hardware integration where you can actually do that, and then you've got all the additional things around internet lag and stream.
Yeah, but you've got more
bit rates and.
You've got more available memory. So like on a server, the amount that you're loading into memory is going to be more. So it works effectively, I think, the same as an SSD.
Is Evan actually making notes? Yeah.
Wait, can you guys just repeat the last 5 minutes of what you just said? I didn't get that. Oh, sorry, continue. But it's very complicated, and it takes several viewings of videos and research to kind of get a grasp on how it works.
And then so the other thing is, so what's going to go into Lockhart if the Xbox Series X chipset is going into server blades? What the hell are they putting into the less powerful Lockhart system? Because it doesn't make sense to me to make 2 different sets of chips. So are they just putting less RAM, a smaller hard drive?
No.
I would expect that to be the case. I'd expect it to be less powerful, basically. I don't know how you'd do that. I'm not technically knowledgeable, but I would expect it to probably sit around the same place as the PlayStation is teraflop wise, and then they would come in at the same price as PlayStation for that, and then their premium console will be about 500, 550, whatever, something like that, I reckon.
It's already pretty much been leaked what Lockhart is. Apparently, it's.
Am I just missing all of this, and Liam is the only person reading these things?
Yeah, I think you must be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a nerd, so get away with it.
And you got a lot of time on your hands as well. We all have now.
Yeah,
I suppose,
exactly. Yeah, well, I did.
Some of you do.
But Lockhart is supposed to just be a less powerful version of the X built on the same architecture, with the same solid state technology. But it only runs at 4 teraflops, which they say is effectively enough to run at 1080p effectively. So it's a 1080p machine essentially.
Well, that makes no sense.
So you might as well just get a Series X.
I think it's a daft idea, and I don't.
This makes no sense. So they keep talking about. So this is where PlayStation got their finger up their arse, and Microsoft had you need an encyclopedia to understand what fucking machine you want to buy.
Yeah. And then now they've got to meet supply constraints of the Xbox One X, and if they're going to launch Lockhart in the same period, that means they're going to have to decide which console they want to support more, like during this holiday period.
So where I'm getting at with this is you've got Sony, who seem to be intent on fucking up the launch of their own new console, and you've got Microsoft, who are making totally new mistakes by confusing everyone as to what machine you can buy. So they're both not doing a great job right now.
Also, I kind of hate the idea that like for the next 7 years or so, like third-party games are going to be constrained by trying to make sure they work on every system. So it means they have to work on the Lockhart, and they have to work on the X, and they have to work on the PlayStation 5.
They don't have to work on the Lockhart.
Well,
they don't have to work on the Lockhart. It depends what game sales are. If
I mean,
if there's more
technically-
people with PlayStations than the full premium one, why would they bother?
Well, I mean, for
People care about the game sales,
the first 2 years of Xbox One X, that they have to work
It's
on.
really nice that Matt raises his hand, even though he's got the ability to mute all of us.
This is true.
So what I want to do is, Matt, please make your point, and then Evan, I don't think you spoke on your Coffee and Coffee podcast about who do you think is making the worst kind of mistakes?
All right, so Matt goes first.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, developers are always going to program and develop games for the lowest common denominator, right? So that was kind of what I was getting at with Sony's stuff is like the nice thing about the Series X is that it will take a game that is programmed for a certain spec and it's able to basically do the emulation trick of upscaling it, adding the ray tracing, adding the extra bells and whistles. So the games are just going to look better on an Xbox in this next generation, no matter what it's programmed for. So I don't think it's really going to matter what these lower systems are at, because as long as you program it to a certain spec and the higher end machine is able to upscale it to 4K and add the dynamic shadows and ray tracing and all that other crap, it's going to look better than it will if you take that same game and put it on a PS5.
I don't think that's necessarily true.
Well, we won't know.
We don't know.
So
That's the argument.
Until Digital Foundry get their hands on both machines and can do a comparison, we're not going to know. So bets. Matt believes that the Xbox Series X is going to run the majority of third-party games better. Liam doesn't think that's the case.
I don't know. It could go
Well,
either
no,
way.
don't backtrack. Don't backtrack. Own it. So I think if whoever loses, we should come up with a forfeit for one of you.
I've got 100 sheets of toilet tissue on it.
Oh man, that's right. That's
100.
I need that.
the new international currency.
It's like,
How much,
no,
like,
Matt. You're sending me out to die. Gonna have to wipe my ass with leaves.
We'll send you some pictures of ones that are safe to use. Right, Evan, what's your take on the current build up to the launch of the next gen consoles?
Well, one thing is we haven't really seen a blowout for either. Like it's been a slow trickle from Microsoft. We haven't heard much of anything from Sony. So I'm waiting for those
If
main
it's been
blowouts.
a slow trickle from Microsoft, what the fuck does that make Sony?
Yeah, that's the slowest to drip coffee ever. I mean, it's gonna take
An
fucking months
intermittent
for.
drip.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, if that were an IV, you'd be dead. But I've never purchased a Microsoft system. I've always had Sony just because I always bought a PlayStation and sometimes bought a Nintendo console, and I'm usually bought PlayStation. One is because what I always bought and I trusted in the brand, and then two, just the games. And a lot of this is like, well, this is going to run better and all these things. I don't really care if it looks better or not. I played Control on the PlayStation 4 Pro, and I thought it looked great. And then I saw a stream of someone running it on like a super high-end PC and with like proper ray tracing. That game looks fucking amazing. The reflections, like they turned it on and off, and it was like almost two different games. I'm like, whoa, that looks like vinyl over like a wood paneled hallway. And it's like not what it looked like on the PlayStation 4 Pro, but did that make a difference in how I enjoyed the game on the PlayStation 4? Absolutely not, because I didn't have two TVs in front of me in my house like it's fucking Best Buy, where I see 1080 versus 4K. I have nothing to compare it to while I'm playing. So as long as I get a steady frame rate and the games look good, I don't care if it looks better because I have nothing to compare it to. But with Microsoft, being second place and being seemingly hungrier, who knows when Sony unleashes the PlayStation 5 or whatever that's going to be. slightly less confident now, but I don't know. I was going to ask Liam later if he still thinks the massive, like, fucking the people's elbow from The Rock is coming from PlayStation. But
I have a theory about that.
yeah, I was going to ask you about that. But, you know, like things like Game Pass, and like I've never bought a Microsoft system. Things like Game Pass, like that's pretty fucking cool. Like I am not used to that. I don't have a Microsoft system. And you know, I always kind of joke about like there's zero presence of Microsoft in Japan, which is true. But I could still buy the system here, and I buy all my stuff from Sony on my US PlayStation account. So that doesn't really matter if there's a presence here or not in Japan. I could just buy the stuff online. So I mean, we'll see what happens. Like, you know, Matt's thinking about going to Microsoft, and I have the income to buy both. But at this point, like, it all boils down to games. And aside from like Senua's whatever the new Hellblade 2 game is, I don't care about Halo. I don't care about Forza. I don't like what else do they? There's nothing that they have in their Gears. I don't care about Gears. There's nothing they have in their pipeline that I want to buy. And so it all boils down to games. And I'm sure the PlayStation 5 games are going to look great and run great. And it's going to come down to Horizon and God of War and Spider-Man 2 and all of these games in the end. But, you know, if Microsoft sweetens the deal with like another new Ninja Theory game, or they have all this stuff in the pipeline, it's going to take years for that stuff to come out, plus Game Pass and backwards compatibility and whatever they're calling it. They have like some marketing name for it, like Happy Disc Party or something like that. Family share. I don't know.
Smart delivery.
Thank you very much. I was close. But
happy disc party is what it's called in Japan after you translate it.
Is that what it's being referred to in the Japanese press, like film titles?
I wouldn't be surprised. I could put that in a tweet, and like I would say 80% of people reading it would probably believe me, because how would you not know? But yeah, that's my initial take. Microsoft could sweeten the deal. I'm definitely paying way more attention than I ever was for a Microsoft system. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Everything it's yet to kind of like unleash both of what those systems have to offer on us at this point.
Right, Liam. Did Evan actually ask you a question, or did he just say he'd like you to say something?
I can quickly ask you. So I know, Liam, we were quite excited about the PlayStation 5 kind of release stuff, and you and I are both hoping like they're just gonna like drop a huge bomb and just like completely tear the roof off. And so that's why I didn't care about everyone saying like, oh, Sony's being weird with their marketing. They're not telling us anything. They're not telling us anything. And they're just sitting there like, just wait, just hold your horses. Once we drop it, then you're going to completely forget about all this stuff beforehand. Do you still think that's coming?
Oh yeah. I mean, definitely. I think a lot of people are just going to forget that this even happened in the first place. Like, just be like, oh, what came after it was so great, you know, blah blah. But my point is that I think people are going to be waiting a while. I don't think they're going to show anything until either the end of June or July.
Well, my response to that is I absolutely agree, and I can't remember where the line comes from. I think it's far from the madding crowd. The mob is fickle.
Oh yeah.
So you've got people of the 600,000 people who watched Mark Cerny's presentation, then went off and did their own YouTube videos about saying how Microsoft is going to eat Sony's lunch. When
people love the underdog story. If it really is an underdog story.
But as soon as Sony do their blowout and say, "Here's what Spider-Man 2 looks like. Here's God of War 2, some test, some in-engine." Game footage. Here's what Horizon Zero 2 is doing with the technology that we've built in. People are just going to not stop caring and say, yeah, these games look amazing, and everyone's got to buy everything because everything's so amazing, because that's what YouTube's like. Either everything's amazing or everything's shit.
Yeah.
There is no.
Totally true.
There's no in between.
Are they still using Blu-rays for the new Xbox?
Yes.
So then surely Sony would want them to do well, because they're making money off every Blu-ray disc they use anyway. And that's the thing that people didn't realise about. Well, it's still something. If you think so many million copies each Blu-ray disc, Sony's like, thank you very much. I'll take that off your Xbox.
5 cents on every disc or whatever the royalty is going to be.
Because that's the people didn't realise, just coming off topic slightly, is with the iPhone, that screen, I don't know now, but about 5 years ago, that screen was made by Samsung. So every iPhone you bought, Samsung were getting money off iPhone because they were using their screens in their phones, which I thought was hilarious. So it's just stuff like that. So actually, Sony want Xbox to do a little bit well, maybe not well as them, because they're using their hardware basically to run their games. So obviously,
something that Evan said that I think might be quite interesting is how do Microsoft sweeten the pot a bit? So if you're trying to convince people to buy, say, the less powerful machine, what do you bundle in? And then what conversations are they having with Nintendo around getting Game Pass on Nintendo? Now that could be very interesting, because I don't think Sony are having those conversations, but Phil Spencer's alluded to talking to Nintendo about the opportunity to get Game Pass on Switch.
I don't think that will happen.
No, I don't know.
Well, when there's money involved.
I think it
If
depends.
there's money,
But Nintendo are making a killing. Actually, I don't know if you know this, but apparently Nintendo had record sales this month. During the coronavirus.
Animal Crossing just blew out the UK games market.
The Switch is sold out.
Yeah.
Switch is sold out, and you can get now
Everywhere.
the game is selling pre-owned Switches for £400.
Yeah.
No, that's they're not fulfilling those orders, so that's the third-party people who they guarantee the orders. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. But still, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that even on OfferUp, which is an app like what Craigslist used to be. So it's people just posting their shit and they're in your area, and people are selling. I'm like, you're crazy. I'm just gonna go buy a new one for that. I'm not gonna pay for your opened box.
Yeah, I saw a PlayStation 5 in the store the other day, and it was like the difference between an old,
you saw a PlayStation 5?
They're already out in Japan. And you.
He was how many hours ahead?
The jig is up. Yeah, actually, it's been really. I was gonna put it in the rumor mill to like make you think that it was fake. No, sorry, PlayStation 4. But I was testing you. McWomble's always paying attention. He remembers shit from like 5 years ago. He also remembers I made a drunken bet about Yakuza, and now I still have to play Apex Legends for some reason, but I'll stick with that. But the difference between like a new PlayStation 4 and an old one in the store is like 3,000 yen, which is like what, like $28. I'm like, why would I buy the old one?
Yeah,
Stupid.
It's ridiculous.
All right. Since it feels to me like it's nearly 9 o'clock, but I got up at 20 to 7 in the morning to do this. My body is time zone changes. What's the point?
Yeah, I was robbed of that hour of sleep. It's just
common misconception that it was actually started for school children or farmers in Scotland. That's all bollocks. It was started by the Victorians who wanted people to enjoy more hours of sunshine.
Oh, that's sweet.
That's nice of them.
Yeah, they don't switch the clocks forward or backwards in Japan. But the bad thing about that is the sun sets quite early in the summer.
7 hours. Sorry. Yeah.
No, I was having a Skype call like in the summer with my family, and my friend passed by the screen, and he's like, "What time is it there?" And it was still, the sun was out. I was like, "It's like 9 p.m." They're like, "Holy shit!" Because they'd never seen it bright out at 9 p.m. But I don't know.
Come to England in the summer, then you'll experience that on a daily basis through June and July.
Yeah, I went last July. I had a great time.
Right, so for you Canadians and you Mexicans who don't understand where England is, it's the bits that's south of Scotland and east of Wales and kind of southeast of Northern Ireland, which makes up the 4 countries of Britain.
It's somewhere in between Greenland
France and America.
South Africa, right? Somewhere in between there, right?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, the state of the geography education in the States is pretty grim. I will not say anything about that. Feel free to take the piss as much as you like. I can't say anything against
That
it.
is so true, Keith, about the whole England. It's like, no, the United Kingdom.
Yeah. Well, that's one. Well, this is why America doesn't exist anymore. It's just Canada and Mexico taking over, so they can have proper understanding of geography.
Mm.
All right, next episode, let's we'll do a Photoshop, and we have to decide the line. Where does the line between Mexico and Canada? We got to start splitting states. It's all, let's all come together and we'll decide. We'll put cards down. Like I'll take South Dakota. Like we'll figure it out.
I'll take South Dakota.
Well, we can finally finish the argument between North and South Carolina if we wanted to.
There you go. Yeah.
Isn't you now just all Mexico?
Yeah, it's just the Dakota. Just it'll be a territory, a Canadian territory. There's no North and South Dakota. It's just the Dakotas,
Canada.
the Canadian Dakotas. Yeah.
Canadian Dakotas.
No Mason-Dixon line. None of that stuff. It'll make things much easier for Americans. They get confused.
Yeah, no Midwest.
Damn it.
So no South
Well,
that's not
that'll
actually South.
Be the
And
south.
the one thing I love about American time zones is mountain time, which is a half an hour time zone. I remember we did a road trip and we were driving through. It's like, set your clocks by half an hour. And then it's like, what? So bizarre.
fun.
So bizarre.
No, that was a thing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's going through the Rockies.
No, it's Tennessee. It's the other side of Tennessee. It's near Dollywood and all that part of the world. We did a road trip around that part of America after my brother's wedding. It was quite fun, but hilarious. All these different time zones.
You have to admit, calling it mountain time, that's a pretty good name for a time zone.
It sounds like a beer.
Mountain time.
For
It's like
relaxing
Miller
time. Yeah, for relaxing times, make it mountain time.
All right. Does anybody have any
Right, so-
final
Don't
thoughts on?
I was just about to say, since we're talking about time zones rather than Microsoft and Sony.
Yeah, that quickly broke down, didn't it?
Well, I think so many people, including you and Vin, have talked about this so much. I just wanted our quick takes, which I think were slightly different to what some people have already talked about. So well done
Oh
us.
fuck! I listened to like 10 podcasts. It was different, yeah.
I was saying, who's fed up of the whole bloody charade? Like, I'm fed up of it.
I don't
I
give a crap about teraflops, if I'm honest.
I go on the internet and I see a bunch of wankers, like on both sides, arguing over vapid points that mean nothing, that they don't understand. That they're just guesstimating which one's better, and teraflops doesn't really matter. Like, their discussions don't really matter. They're like, oh, ours will have the best games. You don't know that, though, do you? Like, it's just
Nice, Liam. Nice to bring it back around. It's the Bit Wars all over again.
yeah.
Revenge of the
I'm like,
Teraflops.
I thought we moved past this console wars bullshit. You know?
Wait a minute.
I thought could we not just strive as a human race to play what we want and buy as many systems as we like, and
I just
not have to get our balls in a twist because we don't have the most powerful one?
Did I just commit the cardinal sin of saying the name of the hashtag in the episode? It's like saying the name of the movie in the movie. It's like you don't ever do that.
A Jay and Silent Bob movie? Who would pay to
What's
watch that?
I will say.
Sorry, Matt.
I will say that just the other day I was playing Warzone. I'm on a PS4. My buddy was on a PC, and his friend was on an Xbox, and we were all in the same squad. So,
Fantastic.
and I don't pay for PS Plus. So, I mean, I was online.
No, third party online you don't have to pay for because you can play Apex. You don't need PS Plus.
Right.
Anything like that. People don't realize that.
So I think at the end of the day, it is just going to be a matter of what exclusives do you want, and yeah.
As always, it boils down to the games.
Yeah, exactly. We haven't seen any games.
In a perfect world, I mean, being nerds like we are, I mean, I don't know if you guys the same as me, quite frankly. But you know, in the perfect world, I would own all systems. I want to own all systems.
What, even a lock
if
car?
I can. No, not that one. Although I suppose I could see a.
What about the ColecoVision Mini?
Definitely need one of those.
I mean, I do wish I hadn't given up every system that I have previously, and I've still had my GameCube LP.
What
wouldn't need
about the
anything else.
TurboGrafx 16 Mini?
Oh,
That's a piece of shit.
you know what? This coronavirus is ridiculous. You're delaying the TurboGrafx 16 Mini and Liverpool first title in 30 years. It's on fucking hold. Just burn it. You know what? Fuck it. Burn it all down. Fuck everything.
You know, UEFA have come out and said if we don't finish the league season, then potentially none of us qualify for the Champions League. Unless that happens across the whole of Europe, and then they're going to have to change their legislation. But currently in UEFA law, or not UEFA rules, it says that. So that'd be hilarious, wouldn't it?
I washed my hands, by
start
the
the
way.
looting now.